If you bought a pre-construction property in Calgary, then you have to watch this video because I'm going to show you how you might be eligible for up to $6,300 back from the government. But first, here is a huge disclaimer. I am not an accountant. I am not an expert with the CRA. The information I'm giving you is meant as a general guide only. Please go to the CRA websites or consult an expert before you're making any financial decisions. So there are two GST housing rebates that are available on the purchase of any property across Canada. The first one is the new housing rebate. This is meant if you're living in the property as your personal residence and principal residence or one of your relations. The builder often submits this rebate on your behalf at closing, so there's nothing that you need to do there. But the focus of today's session is about the new residential rental property rebate. This is calculated the exact same way, but the difference is that it's meant for the supply of long-term rental housing. But the good news is the GST is typically included in your purchase price, so it's not an extra rebate that you have to pay and then resubmit afterwards. So that sounds good. Let's dive in. How do we get some free money? Well, we need to first see if you qualify for the rebate. First off, it needs to be a new property. It has to be newly constructed or significantly renovated to qualify, and you have to pay the GST on closing. The second part is it needs to be a long-term rental. It has to be at least a minimum 1-year lease, and the first occupant has to be a tenant, not the owner. Remember, this is a rental property. And it needs to be a self-contained unit. It has to have the essential amenities like a kitchen, a bathroom, and living space for the tenants. If you meet all of those three criteria, then there's a good chance that you qualify for the rebate. Now, how much money are we talking about? Well, the amount of the rebate is directly related to the fair market value, not the purchase price, but the fair market value at the time when the GST was paid, which is normally closing. If the value is $350,000 or less, the calculation is very straightforward. It's the GST paid, which is 5%. You get back 36% of that. Simple, straightforward calculation. If the value is between $350,000 to $450,000, then it's a sliding scale. It's $450,000 minus the fair market value times the maximum rebate of $6,300 divided by $100,000. If the value is $450,000 or more, then unfortunately the rebate is going to be zero. It completely disappears at a fair market value over $450K. And like I mentioned, the maximum value of the rebate we're talking about here is $6,300. Now remember, this is just the GST component, and it's not the full GST that you paid. It's a portion of the GST. So let's take a look at a case study here. This is actually a unit that I personally closed in Calgary in May of 2025. At closing, the fair market value was determined to be about $233,000. Now you multiply this value times the GST that you paid, and the total that I paid was about $11,699. The GST rebate that I received, well, since it's under $350,000, I take the GST that I paid and I get back 36% of that. So my rebate that I got was about $4,200. Not bad for free money. Now, what does the rebate process look like? Well, number one, you have to close on the property. That is what drives and starts the entire process. Then you have to rent out the unit. Now remember, it has to be a 1-year lease with the first tenant in the property in order to qualify. Once you have both of those, then you can move forward to submitting the forms. And the CRA has a form on their website. It's GST 524 if you want to Google that. Now remember, this has to be filed within 2 years of your closing date. Otherwise, you're not going to qualify. And once you've completed that CRA form, you need to include the proof with your submission. This is proof of your GST paid, as well as supporting documentation like your statement of adjustment, a copy of your lease, and anything else that the CRA might require. Now remember, if you submit the rebate, it's not instant. Typical processing times right now are between 4 to 6 months or even longer. I've had claims take 9, 12 months before. Now, I want to warn you, there are a lot of mistakes that people make that immediately disqualify them from the rebate. Number one is using the property for personal use. You can do that, but you have to apply for the different rebate. If you want the rental rebate, it has to be used for rental purposes as the first use. So if you move into the property, you are going to be immediately disqualified. Same with short-term rentals. Like I mentioned before, it needs to be a minimum 1-year lease in order to qualify for the GST rebate program. So if you're doing Airbnb, Vrbo, any of those, you're not going to qualify for that rebate. And as well, if you sell immediately after closing, there's not going to be a rebate because you don't meet the conditions. You need a 1-year signed lease with a tenant. You don't have that if you're selling right after your closing. Also, if you file the paperwork incorrectly, you make mistakes on date, on amounts, on rebate amounts, you could get disqualified. And also something to watch out for is if you're not doing it correctly, you might not get back the maximum rebate value that you're eligible for. Also, the builder is not going to register the rebate for you if it's a rental property. So if you're thinking that it's all taken care of, it's not. This is something that you as a landlord and investor need to do after your closing. And if you miss those deadlines, ultimately you need to file within 2 years after closing, then you're not going to be eligible for the program either. So I've seen people make every one of these mistakes, so please watch out for it. So now I'd like to touch on rental guarantees because a lot of my buyers in Calgary bought properties that came with a rental guarantee from the developer. And the bad news is you're likely not going to qualify for the GST rebate because you have a signed business contract with the developer. You don't have a signed 1-year lease with the tenant. And that's a major condition of being able to qualify for the GST rebate. And this means you're likely not going to be able to claim it. Now, I have had some clients be able to successfully get the GST rebate back. So consult with a professional before giving up all hope, but likely means you're not going to be able to get the rebate back. So how do you file the rebate claim? Well, there's 2 options. Number 1, you can do a self-claim. The CRA has all of the rebate forms on their website, including a massive guide. It's well over 100 pages, but you can easily look it up. And you just need to complete all of the CRA forms. If you have a simple purchase, it's pretty straightforward. You might be able to do it. But like I said, you don't want to make a mistake. You want to get back your maximum value. So this is what I do. I hire a professional. There are people out there and companies that specialize in doing these sort of GST and HST filings. I guarantee you're going to save time, money, and headaches by hiring one of these professionals to do it for you because the rules are detailed. The guide is like 140 pages, and even a small error or missing documents, this can delay or disqualify your claim. I've had this happen as well. I needed to get professionals involved to clean up the mess that I made. And that's the good part is they can follow up with the CRA for you and prevent costly mistakes. Now, typical cost to hire a professional, I've seen anywhere from about $400 to $800 up to well over $2,000 to have accountants do it for you. Just make sure that you're working with a qualified expert. Now, my talk here today has been focused on Alberta and mainly Calgary because many of my clients bought pre-construction properties in Calgary, but the GST rebate actually applies all across Canada, not just properties in Alberta. But other properties, they may have different rebates, like in Ontario. They don't have GST anymore. It's blended into the HST, and there's a different HST rental rebate that you would be able to qualify for if your property was in that province. So speak to a professional, determine what your eligibility might be. You might actually be able to qualify for even more money. I'm here to help. Reach out today, and I would love to put you in contact with some of my professionals to make sure that you're getting the maximum amount of money back from the government. It's free money. Why not go after it? And remember, anyone can become a condo millionaire. It only takes one property and time. And thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more real estate investing content. Bye for now.